Have you ever had a time where you sort of felt you struggled for money a bit? Things were a bit tight, things were a bit tough, you may have lost your job, you might have been out of work, or maybe, you get those times, remember, where, the bills are coming in and all of a sudden, Jesus Christ, the car blows up, or a medical expense comes along, or, stuff just happens in cycles, right? And I know I struggled with money for years, and I used to sort of live week to week, pay packet to pay packet, and think, Jesus Christ, I can't wait until Thursday, I can't wait until I get my next dollar. And, a lot of people I know sort of, are going through some pretty tough times with the cost of living and inflation. And the other day I paid, I think it was $2.32 for $125 to fill up my car with petrol. And you're trying to pay for kids and the family and the groceries, and, the price of goods is going through the roof. And it's bloody tough, right? And I remember when I struggled in those days, and it was really, really hard. And I found that it was really stressful too, right? I mean, if you've got any sort of money struggles, money's a pretty stressful thing if you don't have it, right? Or even if you do have it, not knowing what to do with it can be stressful too. But the thing was this, that the more I felt in struggle, the worse I felt personally, and the worse I felt emotionally. And that was really not good for me, for my health, for my well-being, for my family, for my relationships and stuff like that. And doing that year in, year out, week in, week out, month in, month out, like I used to back in the day when I was, working on the building sites, I used to really struggle, and I could be out of work for a while too, there was nothing worse. I remember seeing a lot of guys that when you were thinking about work, someone's going to get laid off or the company's going to start sacking people, it gets a bit panicky. So what I learnt to do years ago when I sort of started to turn my money around, turn my finances around, one of the first things that I was taught, I got a mentor. And the mentor, one of the first things that he said to me, said, Tony, the reason why you're struggling and the reason why you're stressing, there's two main reasons why it's happening to you, right? Number one, you've got an attitude about money. In other words, I didn't really care about money. I was happy to just blow money and get rid of money, right? He said that was one, my attitude. But the second thing that I learnt was that I never had any sort of cash buffer. Now, what that meant was having a little bit of money in reserve in case of a rainy day. So, for instance, if there was going to be job losses, if someone was going to get put off work, if the car blew up, if I needed some money for a medical expense, if bills just piled up out of nowhere, which they do in life, right? All of a sudden you just have those frigging periods where it's going, holy shit, I've got here's another bill, and they seem to come in threes or fours sometimes, right? So I learnt those two things. So I had to change my attitude about money, which I did, because I started to focus on putting some goals together of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to get to, how I wanted to do better with money, how I wanted to get out of that struggle, that day-to-day hassle of living there, being strung up by a job, going, Jesus Christ, if I lose my job tomorrow, I'm cactus, right? I haven't got any money. So I learned what was called the 10% rule. So I started to put 10% of my money aside every week. And I just set up a little separate direct debit, and that money would just go automatically across. And I think back then was what was called an ING account or whatever, but there's plenty of accounts you can do it with today. But I started to put money aside, right? So all of a sudden when I'm living, I've got my bills and my expenses and all that stuff happening over here, but I've also got a little saving strategy happening over here. So I started to build what was called a cash buffer, and the buffer that I was taught was to get at least 4 to 8 weeks of salary behind me, right? Now you imagine if you're working today and your employer come up to you at say 3 o'clock this afternoon and said, listen, sorry, but we're going to lay off 50 people, as of tomorrow, and you're one of them, how long's your money going to last you? How long can you survive? I mean, I know, interest rates have gone up again. Money's still cheap in my view, but anyway, people think it's expensive because they haven't really experienced the cost of living the way that we're going through it right now. So I guess the message here is sort of pretty simple. One of the first things that I had to do in regard to setting up that cash buffer, paying that 10% pay myself first thing, was that I had to actually cut out some crap in my life. I used to gamble a lot. I used to piss all my money up against the wall. I used to go to illegal card games. I used to do some pretty dumb stuff because I was trying to chase the old golden egg at, the golden egg at the end of the rainbow, right? By winning big bucks and then hopefully go out and win, clean up on a casino, which was just freaking stupid, right? You look at people when there's a big Tats Lotto draw on and go, how much money do they spend trying to win Tats Lotto when round about 95% of people that win Tats Lotto, they're broke again 5 years later, right? And for most of us, the dream is, shit, I hope one day when I win Lotto, one day I'll win Lotto, I can leave my job, one day I'll win Lotto, I'll be this and that. It probably won't happen, right? So I guess to take a bit of stress out of your life and sort of handle that financial pressure and get yourself into a better place, a couple of things I'd suggest would be, number one, set some targets and set some goals around your money, what you want to do, what you want to aim for, what you want to achieve with it. Number two, put a 10% buffer down. So if you earn $1,000 a week, put $100 aside. If you earn $2,000 a week, put $200 aside, or maybe more if you can, right? But build that 4 to 6 to 8 week cash buffer, and that will take the stress out of your life, because you want to be living in a relationship. If you've got a partner and you've got a family and you're bringing up kids, you want to know that you safely and securely got a backup plan in case something goes wrong in regard to expenses, right? So, look, just a little shout out on this one today. I know that times are pretty stressful, things are pretty hard, but the journey where that took me was, once I started to put that 10% thing in place, I started to build cash buffers, is that the stress levels just went completely out of my life when it comes to money. I never had to worry or stress about a job or where's my next dollar coming from, right? I didn't have to stress about any of that anymore. But here's the other thing that happened. More opportunities started to come, right? Different options started to happen. Pay rises started to happen. Job opportunities started to happen. Investment and property opportunities started to happen. So when you start to manage money, you get more money to manage, all right? So folks, hope that helped you out. Don't stay stressed with money. Take control of it, right? Because here's the thing that I know. If you can take control of your money and your financial future, someone else will, and it won't be a happy result. All right, so do those couple of things and it'll help you out. Enjoy.